education is the bedrock of development. Without education, you are lost.
Running with tray of fruits at 56. Her strength matches that of any young person in their 30s. She is not relenting in her efforts to scramble with other younger persons, male or female, in competing for patrons at any cost to sell her fruits. Her livelihood depends solely on it and whatever she'll make from each day's sales. That is where life has pushed her to. Having lost her husband many years ago in active service, his dividends and benefits are yet to be paid. Left to take on the role of both parents single-handedly, she has no other choice than to take to the streets, running around like a young woman in between cars in the major streets of Abuja, hawking this fruit on her tray. All these in a bid to fend for her children and send them to school, having lost the opportunity to acquire an education herself. But why subject an elderly woman to this trouble just to empower her children educationally? If only schools were free, not only will her children go with ease, but she too would have gone back there to better her life, she says.
I for one go now, nobody go. I think as I reach now, no fee go. The thing they hungry me to go. No money.
On the other hand, in Lugbe, still in Abuja, is 48-year-old Nkechi Sule, sitting in a small roadside market with other women targeting residents of Lugbe, either going or returning from work. Vegetables that hardly fetch her 800 naira a day are all she sells from morning till night, every Monday to Saturday, and even Sundays when the situation warrants. Hers is regret for the opportunity she has never been given to go to school, simply because she is female. Now, she has to endure the harsh weather conditions and slow sales to ensure her children do not suffer the same ordeal as herself. If only education was free and mandatory as promised by the government of the day. Even having left their villages to relocate to the Federal Capital Territory, where they felt all government's promises will be fulfilled without hitches. It's mere lip service they just discovered. The stress would have been minimized for these women who are toiling their lives out to feed and support their children in not even private but public schools, which should be free.
The Nigerian Constitution has made it very clear the responsibility of education of every child. And our Constitution, Section 18, subsection 1, talks about government must direct policies towards equal and adequate educational opportunities for all. And the Section 3 of that, subsection 3 of Section 18 says it is government responsibility to eradicate illiteracy and must give free, compulsory, universal basic education for free secondary school, free and up to free university. Now, if we are not doing this, honestly, with those three girls coming up here, I bend my head in shame. Government is liable. The rising number of nations out of school children is a failure on the part of government at all levels and all of us here. Government says they should be taken to school free. There's no reason why anybody should come here and be telling us that they didn't have money to go to school. It's an indictment on all of us here, and I think we must work, all of us in government must try to do something about it.
Their stories reflect those of many other women across the length and breadth of the FCT and Nigeria at large. Though having missed education from the foundation, by no fault of theirs. Their wishes and aspirations of acquiring one, even through adult education, seems a mirage, far from reality. And that brings us to the issue of adult education in Nigeria, a reality or myth. How many people know about adult education in the FCT?
Well, adult education, to my own knowledge, is an opportunity afforded those who were not opportune at their earlier stage in life to acquire education.
A system of education where people that are past school age are encouraged to go to school to learn. It can be formal, it can be informal, but it's tailored towards bringing in people past school age and then educating them, reducing the level of literacy in the society.
Adult education, which is distinct from child education, is simply put as a practice in which adults engage in systematic and sustained self-educating activities in order to gain new forms of knowledge, skills, attitudes, or values. The idea of adult education came in the Third National Development Plan of 1975 to 1980, when the federal government first made provision in real terms for adult education in the country. The plan brought about the establishment of centers for adult education to run correspondence and courses, to conduct research into various aspects of adult and non-formal education. In 1980, the government of Kano State established the Kano State Agency for Mass Education, a historic event as the first post-independent state government to set up an autonomous agency responsible for adult and non-formal education. The feat recorded tremendous progress in adult literacy, which led to winning UNESCO Literacy Awards in 1983 and 1990 respectively. Something significant happened in 1990 when the federal government established the National Commission for Mass Education, responsible for the organization, monitoring and assessment of adult literacy practices in the country. The Commission's activities were decentralized, with offices in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, the 36 states, and all 774 local government areas.
NMEC simply means National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education. Well, primarily our vision is to ensure that both adults and young people can read and write and have what I call unimpeded access to lifelong learning opportunities. We also want to ensure that we provide lifelong learning opportunities and non-formal education to all Nigerians for sustainable national development. NMEC came into being in 1990 through a decree called Decree 710. And then now Act 18, 2004. Well, through governments, successive governments, we have been able to a large extent contributed to the eradication of illiteracy in the country to a large extent. And government, including the present government, has been very supportive, in which case we provide these literacy eradication services throughout the states of the Federation, including FCT.
Coordination and supervision of literacy classes were left solely to the local adult education officers, supervisors, and literacy instructors, with a minimum of 10 classes expected in every local government area. Examinations were, however, conducted on the basic competencies of reading, writing, and numeracy, as well as life skills, which were central to all the literacy programs.
It has helped me a lot because when I was in the house then, I don't know how to read. Even when I go outside, sometimes I'll go to my children's school, they say write their names, I will not be able to write. But this program has helped me to learn how to read. My teacher, Mrs. Helen Ote, She has helped me a lot in teaching us, bringing us up how to read and write. I can sign signature very well.
If I went to bank, I can't fill the form, but now I can do all those things. And because of my husband, he's an educated man, his way of his life. Maybe if I did not go to school, we will end up marrying another woman.
Gaskiya na samu amfanin shi sosai, saboda malama tana da kokarin ta wurin ta bayar da ta fahimtar da mu abubuwa da dama. Gaskiya na amfani karatun nan sosai. Gaskiya na koyi Hausa da lissafi, musamman ma Hausa saboda irin kamar in mun yi tafiya haka ina ganin symbol amma ban san me aka rubuta ba. Amma yanzu da na zo na iya, idan na gani zan iya karantawa in ce mun zo wuri kaza.
Before, when I came before, I don't know how to speak English. So now I be able to speak a little. I can be able to read. My writing change. Adult education is good to improve and encourage yourself more.
The sad reality of adult education in Nigeria, specifically the Federal Capital Territory, is that since 1999, when Nigeria returned to democracy, education began to get priority as a key sector in ongoing socio-economic reforms. The adoption of education for all (EFA) goals in Dakar brought a significant shift in the positioning of Nigeria on adult and non-formal education. Nigeria's 2004 National Policy on Education placed great emphasis on adult and non-formal education, which focused on the education of marginalized groups, including nomads and migrants, girls and women, street children, and the disabled. As earlier designed, federal agencies became responsible for policy and for the implementation of adult and non-formal education. How well has this fared, and how well is it faring?
We have a number of strategies. Let me start with the most recent strategy, which is literacy for economic or true economic empowerment. By that we mean, as we equip adults and young people with the skills of reading and writing, which is what we call basic and post-literacy skills, we should simultaneously equip them with vocational skills. In which case, when they've acquired these skills, that is the basic, the post, and vocational skills, we buy starter packs for them. In fact, this is keying into the very essence of the present Muhammad Buhari-led administration of poverty eradication. By this we mean that when we equip them with these skills and buy starter packs for them, they'll be able to start their own businesses. And by extension, we are reducing poverty and providing avenues for income generation, which by extension helps them to be self-reliant.
Consequently, there are currently no policies and programs supporting the progress of adult education in Nigeria. As a result, adult education is not given the needed attention it requires. Investigations by AD4 TV Radio further reveals that underfunding is the greatest challenge facing education generally in Nigeria, as funds budgeted for are usually inadequate by either federal, state, and local governments, hence subjecting both adult and non-formal education under threats.
We are all product of the system, of the Nigerian system, wherein even the education at the younger age is not even properly funded, let alone the adult education. So to my own view, I would say it is the government has not done much. If you look at the society, you go to each of the states, the 36 states we have in Nigeria, one by one. If you look at the rating, you will see that most states are still educationally backward and less advantaged, as one may say.
There are 5 buildings we inherited from the state government. You can see they are all in a very bad situation. You can't inhabit them. So what MNEC National is doing now is to see how they can take it one after the other. Like we have been able to renovate the one at the back, or the one at the back. They put water, they did some fencing, at least to secure the facility. So the next one we are doing now is we are trying to put one of the buildings here, the one at the background, in order to see whether we can transfer our staff from Port Harcourt Road to start staying here. Because if they're not staying here, they can't be able to take immediate occupation of the place.
We have myriads of challenges. The major one is not autonomy of this agency as an institution. If this agency is autonomous, we have access to many other provisions of funds. But as it's were now, we are limited. We can't do anything unless we take approval. Then, the major problem that's out there with our activities is the problem of funding. Without fund, we can't do anything. We don't have project vehicle. We go out at our own expense.
The structures we have here, many of them, some of them are uncompleted. They are not functioning as to help us be effective in our official duties. Like here we are now, you can see here is still uncompleted. See the doors. When we go around, you will see all of them. Their state or status as it stands now.
According to experts, if Nigeria is to attain success on the Sustainable Development Goals, then there is a critical need to consult widely and come up with reliable and workable funding mechanisms. The federal government must support workforce literacy, developing infrastructure and support, while creating public awareness campaigns and supportive policies to ensure accessibility of literacy and numeracy skills, and also training of masses, while state and local governments take greater responsibility and treat adult education with the seriousness it deserves.
We have a number of other strategies like Rural Facilitator Scheme. We train what we call facilitators. In the formal school system, we call them teachers. But in the non-formal education sector, we call them facilitators. So we equip them what we call andragogical skills. That is, they must learn how to teach adults. Because these are people who are in the non-formal education sector. We have different methods of teaching them. So we employ them, we equip them with relevant skills to make sure they teach effectively to achieve our mandate of literacy eradication.
Records have shown the lack of consistent and adequate funding, vision, strategy, and coordination of literacy services contributed to the fall through the cracks. Hence, government is to ensure that all Nigerians are equipped to face the challenges of a new complex world. As such, making literacy a policy and its funding priority. This becomes necessary looking at education from Fafunwa's perspective, 1980, as a means of developing abilities, attitudes, and other forms of behavioral changes that are of positive value to the society in which individuals live. Or, from Daniel's point of view, 2010, that education remains an important means of making members of society advance in their thinking and ability in life, that is, as a means of leveling the pervading social inequality holding sway within the society.
Yes, ma'am.
It is based on this that one can submit that with education, the likes of Nkechi and the 56-year-old can be provided with the power to reflect, make better choices, and seek a voice in society to enjoy a better life, break the shackles of poverty, and develop better self-esteem. Key players must know that education is a human right to which everyone is entitled to for direct personal impact. As such, that drives the advancement of the SDGs to which Nigeria is a part. The Declaration of Human Rights is emphatic that everyone has the right to education, translating that education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. Elementary education, it says, shall be compulsory, where every woman, man, youth, and child has the human rights to acquire education. On this, the Nigerian government records a complete failure. PDHRE submits that training and information and to other fundamental human rights dependent upon the realization of the human rights is education. If education is the most efficient channel through which the society can face the challenges of the future, then it should be prioritized and made available to all. Education for all is a call to galvanize stakeholders to action to provide quality learning for all, as the Jomtian call was reaffirmed in Dakar in 2000, when the international community, Nigeria inclusive, pledged their commitment to achieving education for all by 2015, a commitment witnessing a decline. Equitable access and elimination of gender disparity in education, among others, many say are only but lip service. With recent statistics indicating about 20 million out-of-school children, not to mention the likes of Nkechi, who still nurse the idea of bettering their lives through education, someday are faced with a myriad of challenges, including government's lack of interest and underfunding, militancy, corruption, poverty, insurgency, amongst others. But of great concern is decaying educational structures and lack of good governance. A final analysis of the Education for All reveals that not only has Nigeria failed in achieving the 2015 Education for All agreement goals, but is very far from realizing them. One critical aspect of the whole matter is the implication of Section 18C of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which stipulates that government shall strive to eradicate illiteracy, and to this end government shall, as and when practicable, provide a free, compulsory and universal primary education. C. Free adult literacy programs. A section Ojogu 2009 queries as making the provision of free universal primary education seem like an obligation by government and not a right of the citizens. This, according to her, implies that participation in education was a privilege extended to the citizens whenever government feels able and willing to do so. In 2004, however, the right to education was recognized and the National Assembly enacted the Universal Basic Education UBE law to enforce a free universal education and compulsory 9-year basic education comprising primary and junior schools. More disadvantaged in the education for all are adult illiterates like Nkechi and the 56-year-old fruit seller, alongside many other illiterate adults who do not benefit from free adult literacy programs because of factors which include scheduling of evening classes, shortage of trained instructors with lack of appropriate methodology and skill to motivate adult learners, the language of instruction, and a dearth of books fit for adults struggling to read and write.
Education, they say, is the foundation and the bedrock of every society. So those people who have missed the opportunity of getting education at a very younger age of their life, if the society will also not be able to educate them as adults, of course, the society has lost all the potentialities, the potentials available in those persons that could have been tapped for the well-being or for the development of the society in general.
The more educated people are, the more they can contribute to the economy, the more they are even aware of their rights. And even all these the election issues we are talking about today, we're having as issues today. If people are educated, they will know their rights, they will know what to do and what not to do. But in a case where a larger population are not educated, somebody can come in and use a simple carrot and dance in their face and they get carried away by it. But if you are educated, you know that you are not supposed to trade your 8 years or 4 years for just mere carrot of maybe two. So government, the country is losing.
Adult literacy still remains an important component of education for all and the UBE program. But then, is the National Mass Literacy Campaign blueprint still relevant in Nigeria today? According to experts in the education sector, Adult education in Nigeria is really heard of these days because the government is doing nothing about reviving it and placing it on the right pedestal. Consequently, there are currently no policies and programs supporting the progress of adult education in Nigeria. Hence, adult education is not given the needed attention it requires and at risk of becoming a relic of the past, a clear case of corruption and negligence to fulfilling the universal literacy for all pact signed at the United Nations.